Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Superman and Lois, Season 2, Episode 12. Not only that, I went on and watched Gotham Knights before I came on here, the trailer, and I'm like, man, just, if a concept is broke, continue to keep shoving out that concept out there. Because you got nothing else. Just keep putting the same old song and dance out there because you have nothing better to put out. Warner Brothers, CW, HBO Max, whatever, they have to focus so much so on the B and C, D, E, F, G level characters when they can't even get their A-list characters in the limelight enough for people to give a rip. Also, like, if we have a Flash show going on around the same time that a Flash movie is going out, shouldn't we be, like, we should be just going on and giving people so many, like, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, for God's sakes. How long have we had a Green Lantern anything besides the Ryan Reynolds movie? How many years is it going to take for us to get a Green Lantern anything? Like, we should go on and have the CW not only give us the live-action movie version of Aquaman, but then also, like, we should be having, like, an Atlantis show that has, like, Aqua Lads and all these kind of characters from Atlantis that they can go on and use. Or HBO Max should be doing something like that, because I think there might be something like that coming down the road. But, yeah. Gotham Knights is a recycled everything, and I feel like Gotham Knights is just going to end up just like Krypton. People will be interested in the first season for the first episode, and then it'll die a slow death. Really, like, CW is going to be left with, like, well, what else is on? Oh, just this only one new show? Oh, well, I guess I have to watch it just because there's nothing else on the CW to watch anymore besides reruns. So, with that said, within episode 12, they give us a very vanilla coming back episode. I can just go on and on about how these four people here are not used enough in a show that they're the poster of. It's just how we go on and have another episode that's focused on both Lana and Sarah, and the best thing about this show is to be the mission that Jordan, Jonathan, and Natalie are going on within this episode. That was, like, the coolest thing. But then everything else was so vanilla because we have a horrible villain, we have a story that is slow, and just, like, man, they can't come up with any kind of dialogue, but just, like, going into, like, mistakes that people have made, and all the things that happened in their past, and, like, without any real, like, well, hey, what is this person really going to bring to the table now? Not much of anything besides what they've technically already been doing. So let's go on into this episode. So let's go into that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoilers. I just feel just so defeated by the show. Every single time I'm to wait for it to come back, I'm like, I have to wait for this. Like, I had to wait for this garbage. How does this show still exist? How is it still on? Like, I want an actual Superman show where Superman is the focus and Lois is the focus. How is that so impossibly difficult to accomplish for a weekly thing? Oh my god. Because we have Lana being the focus on this show. Again, with Sarah also. And I'm like, why? Let's go on into this episode. Let's go into spoilers. Let's double five this one. Let's spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about the time we get to spoil this episode. So, Lana is to be very ungrateful for the fact that this secret was to be bestowed upon her. And she was the only one that was to have been given the secret of Clark being Superman. No one else is to know besides the people who already know. And I was like, the whole, like, Clark giving everybody his secret thing could have changed this whole show. But no, we're just trickling down this thing slowly but surely to have now Clark telling Lana his secret, which is probably going to lead to Lana's death probably somewhere down the road, right? Probably. That's in my brain. I'm thinking like Lana is probably going to die somewhere in this show, and if it does, I'm like, oh my god. Of course she dies. Of course she dies. So Lana is talking to Superman on that road, like at the end of the last episode. And the cool thing about this beginning thing was the flashbacks of Lana and Clark as young kids and having that whole car accident that I guess Clark was to save them from. And so, and how like Lana and Clark were having some fun at school and stuff of that nature. Like Lana kind of dropping her books and Clark helping her up and like, hey, how's it going? And so on and so forth, all that kind of jazz and whatever. So we have, of course, where Clark was to finally, at a point in his life, leave Smallville and go and find himself. And Lana is kind of like bitter of the fact of like, well, you left and you didn't tell me that you were Superman and you just went off to find yourself and you just left me. And Clark was like, well, like I had to leave. I had to become the person who was to save all of your ASSs. And and so Lana is to just go through this episode and just be a bitter bitty about her not knowing the secret from either Clark or Lois. Having Lana go on and say to Lois is like, well, like, Lois, you have been like my best friend, and how dare you not have gone on and told me that Clark was Superman? How dare you? And I'm just like, wake up, woman! Like, that was not Lois's secret to tell you. And I'm sorry, Lana, but Superman was to go off to Metropolis and leave all of his Smallville people behind. Because of course he was, because he was not going to tell everybody in Smallville that he's Superman like he still isn't now. And so Lana should actually be freaking grateful. She'd be counting her lucky stars that Clark was to even let her in on this secret, because Lana has been so focused upon the show that it's like you even need to like give her even more of this story of now her knowing the truth about Superman. But we also had Lana that is to tell like Clark, it's like, well, how is it that no one was able to put two and two together that Clark Kent is Superman, and Clark is just like, well, like people want to see what they want to see. Like simply putting a thing of glasses on and taking them off and being a completely like seemingly slightly different person is to go on and have people go like, oh, I can't tell the difference between Clark and Superman. Really, like Lana is just like, yeah, I'm amazed and how like I couldn't have realized this. And so it gets to the point where when Lana is talking to Lois and we start to have Lois who is going on and starting to tell Lana some things about how possibly Jordan is to have superpowers also, Lana is tempted to want to go on and tell Sarah the secret also. And we have a moment where Lana is to stop, and instead she ends up mentioning to her daughter that there's just an internship available at her job, and for kind of Sarah to just kind of think this over instead of her going to a bar and singing every single night, because I'm sure that's what they're going to do for the rest of these episodes to eat up time. Because that's what happens in this episode. We have Kyle that goes on and takes Sarah to this bar after it seems like they've continued to have conversations with one another. Really just about Lana in this episode because they're kind of worried about her. Because Kyle was to go on and talk to Lana, and Lana was very distracted because she was reflecting on the numbers of times that she had either talked to Clark or talked to Superman and started making connections about all that he was saying from past episodes to eat up time. So Kyle starts talking to Lana and is to just kind of mention like, well, hey, like it seems like you've been very busy lately, and I just thought like we could have some time to just talk and whatever. But then Lana, of course, is so distracted that she all of a sudden is to get this text and is to walk away from Kyle, because Kyle is asking Lana about like, well, hey, like how did Sarah treat the new car? Like, did she like it? Did you go on and like drive with her? And Lana's like, well, yeah, like I didn't get that time. And Kyle's like, okay, like you're really being a bad parent right now, Lana. Come on, like get your together. So we have Kyle that is talking with Sarah, and so. And I'm talking so much about anything but Superman and Lois and Jordan and Jonathan because I want to get all this out of the way. Kyle is talking to Sarah and is saying like, well, like does she have somebody else with her? Like is she dating somebody? And Sarah's like, I don't know. Like she had this like 6-hour walk that she can't explain to me what happened. And Kyle's like, I don't know. This seems very weird. So we have it to where Kyle just lets it go, and so Kyle is just like, you know what, like I'm gonna focus on like being like a father to my daughter right now. I don't care what's going on with Lana. I'm gonna focus on being a dad right now, which is great. Which is great that we have this like kind of Kyle thing going on where he's trying to be a better dad instead of being a drunken one. So we have Kyle that is to realize that Sarah is to have written all these songs because I guess she had heartbreak from possible Jordan and all the things that are just kind of going on within her family is to make her into a musician, writer, whatever you want to go on and do, CW, to waste more time in the show. It's great. And so Kyle is to see, it's like, man, you have like a whole album's worth of music that you can go on and play at this bar that I'm going to arrange and have this be a surprise to kind of get you to go on and play all these original songs at this bar. And so Sarah goes on and plays all these songs, and I'm like, whoop-de-doo. Let's move on. So now that I figured that I've covered most of all of the most of the Sarah stuff, we go on and we have Jordan, Jonathan, and Natalie that are all in school together. So we go on and we have them in school together, and we have a moment where all three of them together. All of a sudden, Sarah's walking by, and so Jordan is telling Natalie to try and stop Sarah, so maybe they can all like start to talk and whatever. And Sarah's just so distracted that eventually she just walks right on by. And so Jonathan still doesn't really want to come back to school. He's been so busy working at this convenience store or just wanting to do anything other than really going back to school. Because immediately when Jonathan is to be closing his locker, he's immediately met by all the other jocks who are now ribbing him of the fact of like, well, hey, are you going to go on and like try to cancel the baseball season also? Like, so we don't have any sports that we can go on and do, Jonathan? As if these guys have nothing better to do but just to joke about Jonathan, about how he canceled the football season, and oh my god. And so Jonathan is to throw it back in these guys' faces where it's like, hey, like, do you guys even know that, like, the world is possibly going to end right around you? Like, at any moment, the world's gonna end, but all you give a about is football and sports and whatever? And the guys are like, whoa, like, what's wrong with Jonathan? And Jordan's like, well, yeah, like climate change and the ecosystem and all. Like, he's been watching a lot of Discovery Channel or something while he's away, and so and so I was like, oh my god, that's actually kind of funny. So the guys go on and they walk off, and so we have it to where Natalie is taking Jordan and Jonathan. Just like, you know what, let's play hooky today. Let's not go to school. So Jordan, of course, is to want to be the good kid and want to go to school, but like we have it to all the rest of both Natalie and Jonathan who just want to continue to just skip school consistently. And I'm like, I'm kind of interested where like Natalie is going to head. Besides her just going on and her like unveiling what she unveils in this episode, I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen with Natalie. Like, is she eventually going to go on and eventually like just continue to be teamed up with Jordan and Jonathan, because that's a good combination and I think that's really good for her. And plus also, like, I think that this should have been a thing that should have been happening for the longest time anyways. But so we have Natalie that goes on with the Wonder Twins, so to speak. And or god, what was the one thing, the siblings or whatever, the whatever thing that Jordan was to say in past episode, to say that they could be called as a team together. So we have Natalie that reveals to the two guys that she is working on her own John Henry Iron suit, but instead of having it possibly for her, she's going to hand this off possibly to Jonathan, so like he will be better like suited, since he doesn't have powers in this family, to go on and like just have the John Henry Irons Mark II suit. Which I'm like, but wait a minute, like I would have liked to had like Natalie in this suit. Like, I don't like the fact that they're just kind of like handing this off to Jonathan. Like, I get it that like Jonathan is to know some of John Henry Irons' tech, but still, like, I would have liked Natalie in that suit. That would have felt like really great to just have this like female variation of the John Henry Irons suit. And I think that she's been working hard on that suit behind the camera, so to speak, or behind the scenes. So yeah, like from stuff that we didn't focus on, because most of the time she was just bickering about her other world and how this world is what it is, and yada yada, boohoo, cry, tears of boring. So Natalie is to go on and tell both of the brothers that she needs one thing, and that, of course, is some more XK to power up this suit. And so they go on into the caves, and if it doesn't seem that should be going on and destroying the caves possibly anyways, because it seems that Superman and Sam and all the guys are having that possible idea, which I think is just gonna like bring up another kind of bizarro situation where somebody's gonna be coming through those caves regardless of them kind of taking down the cave. Here's also the funny thing. Why is it that we always have to have caves within a Superman show? There always has to be some kind of Superman season where we have somebody coming out of a cave, like we have like Superman in Smallville, who was to go on and learn all these things from a cave, then eventually Fortress of Solitude. We're kind of going a little bit of doing like kind of Smallville things, and it just doesn't feel like very fresh. But anyways, so the three kids, the three super kids, let's just call them, are to go onto this cave, and it seems that the cave, after they try to go on and chisel off some ex-kryptonite, all of a sudden this cave is to give way, and that is to give Jordan like his time to just shine, where he's grabbing all three of them and trying to like fast track them out of there and save them. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool, and they're kind of reflecting on back of like what all happened there, and that was pretty sweet. Here's what I would love in the future. I would love all three of these characters to start going out and go on a kind of a patrol. Like, for if Superman can't do everything, then the three of these characters can go on and eventually become like the titans of the show, where you go on and you start seeing that they're going to eventually be like superheroes also, and like that would be cool. I would thoroughly just be like, that is going to be the best thing for the show, and I want that to happen. Yeah, it won't be focused. It won't be focused on much of Superman anymore, but like I think we need that kind of show anyways. So let's do that then to save this effing show. By having them going on and doing little side missions. That would be cool, the three of them together. So now, considering I want to possibly cover actual Superman and Lois stuff, which Lois, all she has to do is the whole conversation with Lana, and then eventually towards the end of the episode, where Lois, Superman and Lois, or Clark and Lois, are to make their way back to speak with Lana, and Lana was almost tempted to tell Clark's secret to Sarah, but then she decides not to. And then Lana is talking to Clark and Lois about like, yeah, like I just can't be around you guys right now. Like I just need my own time to just kind of sit and contemplate what all I've just learned. And so we just need to distance ourselves right now. So, which I'm sure eventually in other episodes it'll be like, oh, I guess we can't distance ourselves after Lana knowing this whole secret. So I'm trying to think if there is anything left besides the Superman stuff to cover now. I think most of that is to mostly be done. So let's finally cover this now. So Superman is to realize that Allison is coming, and that they should try to come up with some kind of master plan to get rid of Allison somehow. So within this episode, we have Superman that is going on and speaking with Jordan and telling Jordan that he needs to go on and like he needs time to think over what he had done, and that he's going to be imprisoned in this cell. And so we have it where Jonathan is mentioning that Bizarro Jonathan was to go on and tell Superman that Bizarro was unable to destroy this necklace, and so what is it exactly that Superman is going to go on and try to do here to get rid of this necklace? And so we have it to where Superman is going to both Sam and both John Henry Irons to like, well, is there a tech way to take this down? Is there a possible Kryptonian way to take this down? Like, Clark is kind of going and asking his mother if there's something that he can do. And so, like, everything is kind of being exhausted. And so eventually Superman is to come to the conclusion that he needs to go and seek out a previous enemy to help him here. So Clark or Superman is to go off and meet with Tal-Rho, who of course is still in his prison cell. And so Tal-Rho is to tell Superman, it's like, hey, for the number of times that or for the times of which that we have been at enemies with one another, like, I've also saved your life. So, like, how about you cut me some slack? How about I go on and realize that there is a bigger threat here besides you and me? And how about I go on and, like, not only try to make amends with people, but then, like, I'll go on and, like, I'll help you. Like, I've proven that I've helped you in the past. So, like, let me help. Let me go on and just, like, help you out. Because Superman is to mention how, like, in the other world, Tal and him are best of buds. And in this world, like, Tal is like, well, yeah, like, in this world, like, this is probably the only world where you and me are villains between one another. And so maybe we should try to rectify that. Maybe, like, let's, come on, like, we're blood. So we have Superman, who is to take Tal-Rho back to the Smallville home, where Tal-Rho is to be in handcuffs, kryptonite handcuffs, and is to go on and give Lois these flowers. Hey, like, here's some flowers, and I just want to apologize about everything that I've ever done. And Lois is starting to rattle off all the lists of every evil thing that Tal-Rho has ever did. And Tal-Rho is like, well, yeah, like at first, like, I just saw, like, all of you as trying to take away my brother, but, like, now I want to go on and, like, if I just would have seen things in a different light, maybe things would have been different. Like, how things could possibly be now. Like, just realizing what all is really going on. Like, Tal-Rho didn't really know. Tal-Rho didn't really understand what was going on in this world. And so maybe now he can go on and eventually be somehow, like, just put into this world and not try to conquer it, but just to try to exist. Because also prison time would also probably give Tal-Rho maybe possibly different perspective about things. Or maybe he's just going to turn around and become this evil doer that is going to murder and kill and whatever. We'll figure that out at the end of the day. But anyways, so Superman goes with Tal-Rho to take this necklace, medallion thing, and they're gonna go on into this, like, volcano lava like place and want to use their heat vision, and both of Tal-Rho and Clark combined using their heat vision to try to destroy this amulet. And so we go on and have them try and attempt to do that, and Allison is to eventually try and stop them by sucking the life out of both Superman and both Tal-Rho here. And we go on and we have John Henry Irons, who's not going to get the power sucked out of him because he is, like, it's basically the equivalent of, like, hey, bring Batman in, because Batman doesn't have superpowers, he just has skill, so bring him in, and then Allison will just be like, oh no, there's no way I can just suck the life out of this person. But so, and immediately when I was watching, like, Allison just suck the life out of both Superman and Tal-Rho, I was like, man, I just saw this movie called Life Force, where we have people, like, lock-lipping with one another and just sucking the life out of them. And, like, man, like, they're just kind of just not doing anything that I feel all that creative about. Just, man, I wish that like Allison could have been Parasite or could have been like a Lobo villain for this season. I would have had a lot more fun with that. Just for all the things that they would f up on. Um, I would just rattle off a number of villains of which that would just be so much cooler for them to have used. But I digress because this show has to be what it has to freaking be. It's suffocating itself by just not realizing that they should be focused on poster people. And anyways, so we have John Henry Irons, who only has like one move and one move alone. Man, he just has to continue to just fling that axe as if he's or fling that like that hammer as if he's Thor because that's all he's got. He can fly. He might be like strong and whatever, but that flinging axe thing just like that's his one trick pony. So John Henry Irons is to make it into this volcano. He flings the axe, takes out Allison, and then both the Kryptonians go on and wipe out this medallion. And so now after that, we find out that Tal-Rho is to completely vanish because he was to have taken off the kryptonite cuffs. And John Henry is telling like Superman, it's like, well, yeah, you should have kept those cuffs on. And Superman's like, no, like I just trusted him. So we'll see what happens to Tal. Like, I'll be really interested. Speaking of Tal, we have Allison who goes back to her Bizarro world. And we, of course, remember that Tal in that other world was to help out this Superman because he could not let his brother die, even if it's a brother from another world. So Allison had imprisoned Bizarro Tal-Rho, and she goes on and sucks the life out of him. And the visual of which that he looks when he's just dead, I was like, oh my god, that looks so cool. But man, if we could also just have some kind of Darkest Nights kind of story here, where eventually all the people that at some point had died within the show, or like they start killing people off, could come back to life and start haunting. Oh my god, would just be like a sweet show. Just like have a number of people who had all died on this show just come right back and come after. Like we could have like a Bizarro that had come back to life and is now to go after like Superman and everybody, and maybe there'll be Black Lanterns, or there'll be like some kind of equivalent of like we could have a character that could just be like this wizard or magical character that is to bring the dead back. We could have a zombie freaking like Superman and Lois kind of show. Wouldn't that be awesome? It probably wouldn't work because you got to be possibly like family friendly, but like freaking it would be great to just have some kind of goofy zombie kind of thing where they're bringing back the dead with the show. Because now that Bizarro is dead, we could have like Solomon Grundy, and maybe that's his power of bringing dead back to life, and that could be a really cool villain for this show. It'd be very dark and gritty and whatever, but still like just a million different things they could go with in this show. So really, I think after the whole like Allison and the Tal-Rho thing, that's just kind of how this show really ends off. I think there might have been a million things that I've probably forgotten about within this review, but I'm also going to get the heck out of here so I can make this review very short. If there's something that I forgot about, let me know in the comments below, because I'm sure there probably is. I'm going to try to get out of here so I can go on and make this a fairly short review, and a lot of people can just get my feelings about this show anyways. Just see that I'm still just kind of... I'm disappointed about this show. I feel like there's a million different things that they could do better about it, or different, or make it unique enough, but it's just not going to happen anytime soon. It's just not going to happen. within this season, and then I'm going to go on to the third season just like, man, like they could have gone on and done this better, and it'll just be that consistent rolling thing of I can't just stop but have to come up with a million other better ideas instead of like, man, the ideas that they're going with in the season is great. No, because it's just, I want to be happy about this show, and me bickering about it is just me wanting to eventually just see a better show. Everything, because I don't want to seem that I'm gonna be like I hate everything, but like there's a better way to go about stuff, and this isn't it. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.